the thing, right? So more and more deadlines are coming, not just for this subject, but also for other subjects. I can understand that. Huh? So please work hard, and then let us work together to meet the deadlines. Huh? There are quite many due dates coming. Okay, let me do a bit of briefing, right? A bit of reminder for our final presentation, right? It's going to fall on week 15, Monday, right? Meaning after next Monday, another Monday. The assignment 3 submission deadline and also the presentation will fall on the same day. Same day, it is on Monday. Monday's 4th of July. 7月4号 4th of July. So mark your calendar for that, 4th of July. And on that day, the schedule for presentation, I've already done it, right? And I've already put it on Moodle. Please check if you are not still not aware of it. Maybe you missed the class last week or the week before. You might not know that there is a, let me remove this first. Okay, that I don't want to confuse you with too many things, right? Some of this, I think I can actually remove it already. So the submission for assignment 1 is over. Okay, assignment 2 is also over. So the upcoming one will be assignment 3. So here you can submit here. Let me check any submission. 0 submission yet. Still 14 days to go, right? No worry. So do your best. Okay, so what I want to emphasize for this submission is for assignment 2, assignment 2 previously, if you put static screen with very how to say fact data, very much static data that you hard code into your XML or you hard code into your code, right? Your hard code basically, that is acceptable for assignment 2. But for assignment 3, our focus would be more on the dynamic feature. Dynamic meaning the functionality at the back, right? You have to start to implement. You have to implement them, right? Let's say you have, for example, login. Login. You cannot leave it just like that. That people can just log in with clicking a button and skip the login. So you need to have a login flow, login program flow behind that. Check the username password against a storage. That storage can be local, for example, room. You can use room database, or you can use shared preference. I didn't touch on shared preference yet. That is local storage, but I think most of you may not use shared preference. If I have time, I'll touch a bit on that. Maybe today or maybe next week. You can use remote server, server side. Firebase, for example, one of the quite common, right? In Malaysia, we can access Firebase, but in China, I wonder whether you can access Google product or not. Firebase is by Google. So if you cannot, then you can implement. This afternoon, I'll show you how you can actually do your own server side, right? Without development, the entire server side, right? I know you have limitation of time to create a server side. For the app, normally we need both sides, right? Front end and back end. So server side takes time to develop. If you can, of course, you are welcome to do so. But if you cannot, then we can use mockup. Now we can mock the REST API at the back, right? To supply whatever data you submit. You can still do CRUD, right? CRUD using a mockup API server. So there are free mockup API server available that you can actually use. I recommend you a few to test out, right? Maybe that will help you to do your functionality. So for assignment 3 and also the final APK, final product, final app that you want to develop, I would expect you to at least implement most of the main feature that have a backend, right? Most of them. You can still mock up, right? But it has to be coded, not to leave it as static screen with image view or whatever, you just draw it, right? For example, Recyclerview. In assignment 2, I think quite a few teams actually, your Recyclerview is actually static cut view, right? So in assignment 3, it has to be Recyclerview. That even though you render the Recyclerview with some semi-static data, right? You put it inside your code, right? A list, array list, but still, right? That is better than you put in a list of cut view to represent your Recyclerview, right? Because we learned Recyclerview in the class, so I expect you to be able to implement it. So Recyclerview, for example. So that is the assignment 3, the target. As many as you can. If you can connect your app to a server API. For example, Google Map for hotspot, right? If you are able to use Google Map or Bing Map or any kinds of map API for that, rather than a static image view to represent your map, right? So that is your assignment 3. So assignment 3 will be about 14 days from today. So that is on the 4th of July. And then after the presentation, I'll give you a few more days until the Friday to submit the final copy of your final report. Right. So the presentation will be on the 4th of July. So remember that. So the final team project presentation schedule is already online. So you please check the schedule, and then in case you need to change the slot, if you are not able to make it, right, for the slot, if one of your team member, right, or your team members cannot make it for the presentation, right, on the slot given, please let me know, so I can help you to swap, or you can swap among your friends, COSMAT, in order for you to be able to present. So this time, because of the many teams, so I'm not going to require you to do a lot, right? So the presentation will mainly focus on the demo. So please focus more on the demonstration for about 7 minutes. And then after that, leave the last 3 minutes for Q&A. So it's not a lot of time. So you don't have to do too much of a elaborated kind of presentation, right? So straight to the point, just demo the app that you have done, and then describe it, right? The main feature, and after that, reserve 3 minutes for Q&A. So this is the schedule that I've done, right? So please pay attention to the time given. So on that day, we'll start a bit earlier, 1 hour earlier. For those teams that present before 3, please pay attention. We'll start at 2, right? Start at 2. So some other teams will present later. So according to the class times. So hopefully we can finish it before 6, right? Before 6. So it's about 4 hours from 2 to 6 for all the teams, right? Please prepare for that. Right, so that is on the assignment side and also for the due date. Please, if you have any question, please ask now. Yeah, not too sure on what to achieve. So now I'll go to the final project, what we are supposed to do for the final project. Right, final project last week. I've already prepared a template, the format for report. Right, so component 3 will be the assignment 3. Just the no need report for assignment 3. Assignment 3 is similar to assignment 2, just that it is a completed so-called the app. Right, you submit. You clean the project. Please clean the project. You don't have to submit the APK. I will actually run the app, and I will create the APK myself and run it. So you please submit only the project with the source code, the entire project folder, just like assignment 2. You zip it and you submit. For assignment, for component 4, the 4th will be the project report. Right, project report you will also submit together with your API full project code, right? Tested code. Right, and also for the final one, submit the APK as well. Right, for this one, try to clean up all the unnecessary code for the final project source code. Right, if you put in a lot of debugging code, for example, the logging code log, right, log, you print some log information to the console, right? So remove that and clean it out, and try to add in a bit of your documentation, meaning the command in your code. So the assessment will be on your project code. First of all, completeness and complexity of the solution. So I will run the app. I will check it against the code, right? Whether it's complete based on what you have already proposed in assignment 1 and then your assignment 2, right? Then this is the final, the one that is functioning. And then code quality, I will check your code structure. So please, even if the app is functioning already, do a bit of tidying up, right? Your code, especially those projects with a lot of source code, Java and Kotlin code. Try to arrange them into, for example, directories of database, directories of your UI, directories of other utility. Let's say you write some utility class for some function, commonly used function, then you can put them into your utility folder, right? So you try to arrange them according to the type of file you have. UI includes fragments and also your so-called activities. If you have many UI, too many UI, you can arrange each different UI, right, in different folder. For example, let's say you have view model. If some of you apply view model behind your UI, right? I don't have time to teach in detail, but I think you look at many code, right? Actually, they are view model at the back. If you do view model and the corresponding UI together, activity and view model, then you can group them together in one folder, right? If you have it. If you don't have it, it's fine. So code quality, right, is another concern. Here, documentation is the one I talk about for report, right? It's about reporting, right? So this is a document, right? It's a Word file that you can write, and then after that you can generate a PDF from there, right? So documentation, the format, right? The format, let me show you. I have already uploaded to Moodle. Let me go to that page. Right, documentation format. Yeah, right. Final project report format is under assignment and project. All right, let me drag out so you can find it more easily. Right, final project report format. So the section chapter in the format in the report, right? I have already put it there. So just follow that structure. You can do some modification if you want to add additional info. It's okay. Just that don't go too many, right? So I have estimated each report should be around 10 to 15 pages in total, right? So don't write an thesis, right? You don't have to write a thesis. So there is a final project report for you to follow. And then after that, there is a testing, right? Test cases. So let me bring it out. Hey, sorry. Right, so this section report, right, is pretty much clear. Last but not the least, the last section here, test cases and test result. Right, I have prepared a template for you to follow and a sample. Right, you can get it. I have just uploaded to Moodle. Thank you for your friend who reminded me. I forgot about it. Last week I was thinking of doing it. I forgot. Okay, so I have uploaded it here. There are two files there. Two files. Two files. One is the template. So you can use the template to fill in your name. There's a cover page there, your name, your member name, your ID, and so on. You fill up, and then you fill in the table. Let me show you the template. Right, so this is going to be your 5 marks for the 5 marks for your for your one of the assessment for report. Okay, let me go there. Right, this is the one. Okay, sorry, this one is wrong. This one I think I have to rename this one. It's wrong. This one, the template, where I use a template. So this one I forgot to rename. I'll upload again. This one should be SWE401 assignment. Right, the cover page. Not this file. I think not this file that I'm opening. Okay, never mind. Let me change it first. Okay. So this is the file. So for this, let me open a template, a sample for you to see. There is a sample on how to do this. Right, so this is the table. In table form, you can apply. You can use software tool to test. For example, Selenium. For example, there are some open source software for UI testing, or you can use the UI Espresso of under Android Studio. It's not that difficult, but you need to go through some tutorial to learn how to automate. But because I don't think your app has too many features, so you can actually do a manual testing, right? It's good enough. You just test it on your own, or you get someone to test for you, right? So you write down these are just template. So this is a sample type feature that you might want to test. So it depends on your app. The feature name depends on your app, but this is a sample. So I'm showing you a sample. So you can put in some test ID. Right, let me unhide here. There is some additional row here. You can also test on install, uninstall, sign up, log in, log out, venue, check in history list, right? For example, if you have Q&A, you have health assessment screen, health assessment feature. You can test all those features, user profile, for example, and then the navigation between the screen. So you can put in all the features that you test, right? And then put in some description of the test scenario, and then use a test ID, test case ID to identify the test. So whatever unique test that you do, right? So you should give it an ID so that you can identify it later. And then summary of what you do, and then precondition before the test is actually carried out. So what should be prepared first before that, right? So that the test can be done, the precondition, and then execution steps, right, of the test. Do it as detailed as possible. If you know the steps, put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then expected result, right, of the testing for that case, and then the actual result that happened, whether this test is important or not, right? Priority. Normally in any test, we assign some priority to the test, right? So I think main feature, for example, QR code scan and check-in, and also the QR code history, check-in history is among the high priority tests, and then log in, log out, register, and so on. Some test case could be a bit secondary, then you put medium, for example. So review whether it's done already or not. This part is actually the test result, right? This part. So anything before the priority will be the test case, and then the corresponding result, right? The corresponding result that you do after you test, whether it's done or not, done, review or not, and then completed or not the test, right? And then any comment. If you some of the tests fail, let's say fail, right? You test it, it doesn't fulfill what you actually planned for, right? Just document it down honestly. Doesn't matter, because that is part of the testing process. So testing doesn't mean you must have a perfect app before you test. You should actually do the testing in order to discover, to uncover mistakes, uncover problem in your app. So you can actually record it down clearly, right? Honestly, right? Doesn't matter as a test. So your test result, you can be as honest as possible, and then you rectify it if there is any defect, right? If you know the defect that caused the error, caused the problem, right? It can be runtime problem, right? It can be build problem, compilation problem, right? Sometimes the result is there, but it's not right, right? So things like that. So you did identify the defect, and then you put it down. The defect is due to the API. The defect is due to the coding. The defect is due to the database, for example. So you put it down. And then figure. Okay, so in order to prove that the test has indeed being carried out, right? So you can actually attach corresponding screenshot for each of these test cases. So you can map test case ID to the corresponding figure ID, figure number in your another sheet, worksheet in your Excel. You can just add as many worksheet as you need to, right? To show the screenshot when you do that test case, this figure, right? It is mapped to which test case. So you can show it, show it as many as you can, right? Depending on the number of test cases you have. This one can be proven as your test result. So please do that. So this is what you are supposed to do for the test. So this is part of the assessment. The template, okay, let me show you the template. You don't have to create your own file. You just fill in the template. I've done the template, but you can modify the template according to your need, right? So you can modify according to your need. You can just fill in the blank, right? The name, the student ID, and so on, right? Student name and so on. And then the test case ID, and then the test scenario. As I mentioned just now, I rearrange the column, right? The column name and so on. So that feature will come in the third column. You can put the test cases ID first, right? So summary, precondition, execution steps, expected result, actual result. This part will be the test result, right? Okay, maybe I put it more clearly. Test result, right? Test result. And over here, test cases. right? This one, please work together to do it. It may take quite an effort for one person to do. So if all of you who develop your own separate feature, right, you can do it. You can test for your respective feature that you develop as a team. So this is the template. Let me give you this latest version. So the screenshot, screenshot. You can actually create as many screen as you want, as many worksheet as you want to put in the screenshot. You can put all the screenshot in one screen, one worksheet, or you want to put it on separate worksheet, right? So that you can show all the screenshot of what you do, you result you generate when you do the test. So try to do all these before you finish the assignment 3 and then submit the final project, right? So it will be part of the report. So you can submit as late as the Friday of the 1st July, and Friday of the first week of the July. Let me check the date, which is on the 8th. The last day where you submit the report together. So you attach together your report with the test result, right? So they will be on the 8th of July. 7月8号, 8th of July. You can do later, but you should test it before you present, right? So if you can, you test it before you present, but the reporting, right? For example, the doing all the screenshot and so on, you can do it after the presentation, but you try to do the test before, earlier. Earlier than the presentation. So you have 2 weeks from now, at least budget that 2 weeks from now to do to finish all this. Okay, any question on this? Let me update the file to Moodle. Hold on, I update it so that you get the latest one. Cosmetic changes, only cosmetic changes. Right, cosmetic changes. Okay, so clear about the assignment. You have about 2 weeks. Next week we still have class. Next Monday. So you can still ask if you are not sure. So anything that you are not sure, please ask again. So this is week 13. Next week, week 14, and after that presentation on week 15. Right. So assignment 3 submission. Right. Deadline on the 4th, 4th of July. So you still have 2 weeks from now. Okay. So today, extension, you mean for the which aspect of the assignment 3? I think we can't really extend too much. We need to do the presentation, right? So if you set extension for the final submission is possible. Final submission is on the 8th of July. The report, right? The report and the test cases and the final version of your app. That one can be, we can negotiate about that later. But for the presentation, that is on the 4th of July. What you mean is the presentation or what? When you say extension, right? Extension can be for assignment 3, or extension can also be for the final project, final report. So which one that you are actually trying to have extension? Which one actually is the one that you mean? Okay, so extension. Okay, is it a consensus? Because I know I saw from the assignment 2, actually, yeah, some teams that almost done assignment 2, even the assignment 2 that has just been submitted. There are teams that already finished almost everything. The function also there already, more or less. Ken, okay, why not like that? We just stick to the current due date first, because it's a bit messy if I simply change. The presentation, let us target on Monday, 4th of July for the presentation. Even though your app is not fully functional by then, let's say you just present whatever that you have done, right? But you still have time to tidy up for the final copy. This one is open for extension, right? For the final report. So you can leave your final report aside first. Don't focus on your final report and the whatever documentation, testing, test cases, and so on now, right? You try to complete your act first. That is fit for a presentation, right? So you can record, if you want to record demo, right? Before the day, you can record, and after that, you just play the video on that day for about 7 minutes. That one, it can be your focus now, for now. So you just focus on the presentation first, right? This is open for extension. By then, we actually can we can actually deliberate on that. After the presentation, we deliberate how long more you need for your final report. You can do until maybe your study week on the 16th, week 16. We don't have class on the week 16, so you can still do it after that, and submit as soon as you can, right? Deal, can that deal, right? This one's open for extension. If you really need extension, that would be the one that we can extend. I think I don't have to state it there, just open. So at that time, we deliberate on that. Whoever can submit earlier, you submit, right? Whoever can finish earlier, you finish already, you submit, right? So whoever need extension, you come to me, to tell me. We deliberate on that. But for presentation, to be fair, I think we fix the date. We fix the date. Unless everybody needs extension, then we have to postpone this Monday presentation totally, right? Rather than do it on Monday, we postpone it to maybe the other day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or something like that. So this one, let us play by the ear, because there are still two weeks to go. Right? Too early to surrender. Right? Too early to say that we must reschedule. Yeah, the reason I put it on Monday, because we have class on Monday, right? If I want to schedule on another day, that way I need 4 hours, right? Most likely it will clash with other class. It's a bit hard for 4 hours straight for everybody. So I need to get feedback from everyone first. So it's not like now I am not sure whether all of you are in the same cohort. You are attending same classes all the while. So maybe I'll find out. I'll find out. Right. So okay, what is the main obstacle for you for the presentation date? Is it because too tight that you don't have time to prepare? Not the app that you cannot finish, but the time for you to prepare your demo. Which one is the main obstacle for you to actually do the presentation? FYP, when is your due date for FYP? Your presentation for FYP? Oh, okay. But if I extend it, still you have FYP there, right? So you wouldn't have time to focus on this assignment until after your FYP. Until after your FYP. Okay, why not like that? Do you have class on Thursday? But I don't know about everyone. Today's attendance is not full. Later suddenly there are people who say cannot actually. I have to check. I announced it earlier. Okay, why not we decide now? Instead of Monday, we change it to Thursday. Thursday, the presentation. You have 3 more days. Thursday afternoon, 2 to 6, something like that. Thursday afternoon, 2 to 6. Let me check my own schedule, whether I can or not. Can actually. Thursday, 7th of July. 7th of July. I need consensus. If there are some students who cannot, then we cannot change. Thursday. 7th of July. Afternoon. Meaning FYP is already settled by then. FYP already submitted. You have FYP presentation, so I don't know about your schedule. Does it clash or not with other class? Thursday, 7th of July. since you are asking, right, Hao Jing, Shen, Li Shen, and so on, can you check for me or not with your friends and your own schedule? We do the presentation, same schedule, same slot. We have the same slot, right? Same slot. I'm not going to reshuffle. Use the same slot, but the entire slot is on Thursday. Okay, right? Any objection here in the class? Others? 你们有听到吗 Okay, both those in China, those in Malaysia, or wherever. We do it on the 7th of July. Okay. So I think I'm okay with it. I'm okay lah. Principally I'm fine. July 7, 3 more days after your FYP, which is Thursday. Afternoon 2 to 6. We do it on Thursday. So I'll announce it on Moodle. I'll change it now straight away on Moodle. And then we need to remind. We need to remind the rest about it. Right, so the assignment 3 submission would be the same. So we'll try to just make it in line. So assignment 3 submission will be on the 7th of July. Right, 7th of July. Let me just change it now, otherwise I forget. 7th of July. Right, let's make it 6 o'clock. The last hour of our presentation. You wrap it up, you submit. You should get everything ready actually before that. 7th of July. Thursday. Only for that week is Thursday. Next week is still Monday, and after that we have a hiatus. Right, we have a break of a bit more days until Thursday before we have the presentation. Okay, what is that? Oh, okay, this one. All right, so I will do that this way on Thursday. This one. Right, so the final report, I think this one we leave it that way first until we have how to say it, we deliberate on that whichever group can finish on that day on the 8th you submit. So this one I think open it. So it's a bit like you can extend if you need until over the weekend until the week 16, Monday, Tuesday, and so on. You need to submit. You just submit. So I will just leave this open later. So I will leave it a bit open for this one. Right, I will set it later. I'll set it later. And then for the presentation, I'll just need to change this one. Right, remember it's 7. The 7. So the file inside the file I'll update later and then I'll upload again. Right, it's not on Monday, it's on Thursday. Thursday afternoon 2 to 4. Right, Thursday afternoon 2 to 4. Right, so since a few of you already say confirm, who is sharing the screen? Whose screen is this? The light. Did I do it? No. Can you check? Some of you accidentally open your camera and then it's pointing at the what is that? Your table light. My screen or your screen? But I see something here. Okay, never mind. You are seeing my screen. Okay, I see somebody's screen. Okay, never mind. Right, done. Done. Okay, settle. All right. Okay, today we are going to do a bit more on, I don't know whether you are going to apply this or not in your project, but I do need to teach, so to show you how you may actually do one of the options. So we have done room last week, with so-called multi-layer architecture, MVVM. Some of you asked me whether you can use SQLite Open Helper. Directly what you learned in the previous subject, using SQLite, all the function SQLite, delete, SQLite, edit, and so on for delete, update, and so on. Can, but now if you look at most of the examples people are doing and the one proposed by Google, right? Actually, everything is architectural. You have architectural components such as view model, like live data, and then room. Room is part of the architectural component to do storage. So if you really don't have time, no choice, you apply what you have learned before. But I do encourage you, if you want to really do it the right way, for the long-term benefit of your app, you can extend it further in the future. I know you are not going to do it again after the exam, after submission, but in the future, if you want to apply in Android development, you should actually get hold of how to do it using architectural way, right? This room that we discussed last week, right? Together with other layer like repository, how you have DAO, right? Data access object, right? And then you have something called repository, and then the view model layer, and so on and so forth, right? If you really want to do it in the right way, that should be the right way. That is what I can tell you, right? As a educator, of course, in reality, when you want to meet the target, you can find other ways to do it. So when I look at your code, as long as it works properly, and then you code in the right way, even though you use SQLite the old way, the conventional way, as long as you can make it work, it's still fine. Today, I'm going to talk about, let's say you are not going to do it using local. Local has limitation. You can't store everything locally in the app, right? Especially authentication, right? You can simulate authentication using Room, yes. But if you really do it in the reality, in the real case, right? Most likely you need to develop something in the backend. So normally nowadays, for mobile app to work with a backend system, right? The communication between mobile app and the backend is through a network API, RESTful API, right? RESTful API using what we call JSON format. JSON format is just string file, right? Text file in certain structure, right? JavaScript object notation, JavaScript format of representing data, right? So that network RESTful API, you can create using many ways. Actually, if you check Moodle, right? Moodle, I put up just this today. These 2 days. Today, I put up a page under sample project, sample code here, right? You can open up how to create RESTful API, right? As backend, without coding. Later, I'll show you one server's website, mock API. You can use something like mock API, right? Or maybe Bceptor, right? You can simulate, you can basically mock, right? Your own JSON file, for example. QR code scan, I have sample, I use this mock API to create my own data for history, history data, check-in history API. So you can put in all your, for example, your field, all the field. You can design it using the tool here. Right, basically you can do it. You can add the field as many as you want, the format of the field and so on. You can even use some script to fetch the data, for example. So this is one quick way for you to create the database schema without developing database and without even doing a server, right? You can do this, you can use this. And then you have an endpoint, or you provide you an endpoint. You can use this endpoint to connect, right? So your app can connect to the app, to the server side using the endpoint. So there are others. Actually, there are quite a lot of this kind of endpoint. Somebody provide you to use for free for limited function. You can pay if you want to get more. But for your assignment, I don't think you need a lot, right? So you can actually use them for free to generate all your backend API. Right, so you can test this bank API whether it works or not correctly using Postman. Using Postman before you write into your app and then you test. This is without coding. If you want to explore, there are a lot more. Whether they are free or they charge money. More API is one that I know quite easy to use and quite popular, right? They give you the endpoint, right? You can generate your own database schema, right? Using JSON. And then B sector, as I mentioned just now, and many more. Right, many more. Huh? So I leave it to you to explore and use, right? If you plan to do it this way. Huh? So another way of doing this is with coding. Right? With coding, we don't have time to go through all this in class because this is a mobile subject and all these are not mobile. These are actually web, right? If you have attended web class before, right? If you know PHP, MySQL, you can use PHP to write code to generate API, to create API for edit, delete, update, view, right? You can create your own API. So the tutorials are there. And this is not the only one. You can check many out there. So you can run your own XAMPP server, WAMP server, your Apache server at the back, right? Local host. And then you write your PHP code to generate. And then you can host your PHP and MySQL on a remote server. And then you can generate the API from there also. So this is the more how to say needing more effort way you need to do it. And then you can also use Laravel, for example. If you do PHP a lot, then you know Laravel is a framework in PHP that there is also a tool in Laravel that can help you to generate API, RESTful API. You can use C#, Microsoft C#.NET. You can use Node.js. You can use Kotlin and Spring Boot. Spring Boot framework, right? Kotlin and Java, right? Either Kotlin, Java, Spring Boot framework. You can implement that using Kotlin, Java with Spring Boot, and so on and so forth. Actually, there are a lot more. Ruby on Rails and so on. So we don't have time to do that, but I just want to pinpoint you. Some of you can get some free hosting with some server function. So you can use that also. But make sure when you submit your assignment, make sure you document it down so that I can run it. Or your app, you don't shut down your server until I tested it and I grade your assignment, right? If you host it somewhere, you don't shut it down until I finish grading. So make sure your app can still work with the backend, right? So I'm not sure because I see a few groups that are using Firebase. Firebase is another. Actually, I can put it here. Firebase. But Firebase has its limitation as well. Firebase. You can use Firebase. So there will be some example on how to use Firebase. Some of you are doing FYP using Firebase, so it should be something quite easy for you. Or you can just find out. You can use that also for your assignment. Firebase is for prototyping normally, right? For server side, you can use it to prototype your backend. Today, I'm going to just show you one of the way, mock API. I'm going to use this mock API. Right, mock API. So you can generate, okay, let's say you let me log out first. Right, you can, this is a open source and not open source. Actually, they charge, right? It's free, but it's free for you to use. They have this kind of endpoint, right? A unique key as your secret key that you can put the endpoint into your code. So how to connect to this? There are two libraries that you can use. The one that popular last week I already mentioned about Retrofit. We have tried something using Retrofit. And then also you can use Poly or some other, right? Third party networking library for Java, for Android. So I'm going to use Retrofit in the sample that we are going to do in a while. So let's start with a new project. Okay, let me show you first what I mean by using Retrofit. I use in this sample, I use Retrofit. So let me see what the endpoint that I connect to. Right, the endpoint. Let me show you the endpoint. I think I deleted. Maybe I use another sample. Sorry, I think I changed it already. You may or may not follow this, but it is just one of the choices that you have. Okay, so I'll show you how to do it using Retrofit. Yeah, this one. I do it simple way first without many layer. You can add in layer, view model, repository, just like Room. But for this sample, I'm going to just have entity. A simple entity of 3 properties. History. I want to, okay, one of the feature that you can use this, apply this, other than authentication and so on. Here, I'm using it for the check-in history. Right, check-in history that you store it remotely. Normally, people check in the check-in location, time, date. The information is uploaded right to a server. So you can use this to simulate that server side. So the API code, pretty much retrofit style, right? Retrofit style, all the update, delete, view, get, get is actually to retrieve. Get, pause is to add, to insert. And then you can also do some put using HTTP put for update and also delete. But for check-in history, you don't need to update and delete. Actually, there is no purpose and no reason for you to update, allow user to update and delete. So you can still put in, but you don't need that for check-in history listing, your Recyclerview. And this sample, I'm going to do it. Just do the code inside the activity, right? The code for the retrofit is by nature is already asynchronous, because it works on a asynchronous callback function, right? So you don't have to worry about whether you block your UI or not, right? You can actually run the code in UI, in the UI code, activity code. But a better way, if you have time, you actually can layer it. You can create your view model and create another layer repository. Follow the architecture, right? If you want to put this code in the repository backend layer rather than on the activity. But for quick prototyping, just want to prove that it works. You can directly code it in main activity and it works the same, right? So the retrofit code is by nature the one that we did last week. We did do a sample. Right? We also have this callback, right? So if you remember last week we do a statistical. We have a API that feed us with some statistics value, right? If you run that statistics value from the endpoint, right, you can retrieve the value from the JSON here. Right, it's successful. So the body, right, the response body will have the JSON file. Based on that JSON file, for this case today, I'm going to receive this response body, right, from the mock API. So I use the mock API to show, right? So can we start with a new project? New project. So some of the code that we have already done before, the XML, right? I'll just give you. We'll just do it quickly without drawing, right? We don't have to draw already. So for this sample, I'll just give you the sample code. You can try using the sample code. The functionality is there. Once you understand, you can implement into your project, right? Accordingly, and then the layout for the check-in, right? Check-in history. So this one I have the sample. So we'll just do it quickly. Okay, so just start a new project. Now we can start a new project. All right, let's call it QR code scan with retrofit and mock API. You can follow if you want. So QR code scan with retrofit and mock API. This is one that I did it right before using this for the QR code scan, right? So using mock API. Okay, I use Java. I use Java. But there's no difference. If you either you use Java or Kotlin. Right, let's start with a new project. Right, first thing, right, go to the mock API website. Mock API website. mockapi.io. Let us simulate. We create the backend first. The backend. Right, mock API. You go to the backend. Right, so you can log in using your Google Mail or GitHub account, right, for free. So you don't have to actually sign up, right? You can sign in using Google. right? Google, use one of your Google account, Google email to sign in. Right? So I've created one, but I will create one more. You can do two for free, right? Two project for free. It's no, one project only, one project. Okay, so maybe I delete this one. If I delete my app, I have to change this one. Okay, never mind. I'll do it. I'll just delete it. I'll do it again. Okay, let me see my date and time and location. Okay, so I delete it. I'll do it again one more time. Right, you can create one project for free and multiple, I think up to four resources. Why not I don't delete my project? You can create your project. Or I delete let me delete my project. Okay, I delete my project. Right, delete my project. All right, so you can create one project for free. This one, more API. Okay, so let me call it QR code scan. Project. Let's say QR code scan. If you want to put some prefix to your endpoint, it's fine. Or you can slash something. Let's say it's version 1. Then you have to put version 1 or version 2 and so on your after your endpoint, the URL, base URL, right? You want to slash to represent the version, can. But I'm not going to put it. I'm not going to put it. I will use the base URL. So I call it QR code scan. Create a project there. Right? So you create a project. So under one project, you can create a few. And this is your URL now. Later, you have to put this in your code for your retrofit to capture the data. Right? So your retrofit will actually access this base URL. Right? So this is an encrypted key, right? A key, encrypted key for your unique project. So you shouldn't use mine. You cannot. If you allow people to know your encrypted key, then it's dangerous. People can hack your database, can delete your database, and so on. Right? In this case, we don't call them database. Every table, so-called a table in our relational database, is a JSON file. So we are going to create a JSON file for that. So in this endpoint, I'm going to create a resource. It's called resource. It's a JSON file. Right? Let's say I call this history. In relational database is a table, history table. So I have a unique ID, right? And then I don't need this field, right? I don't need this. I can create my own field. Okay, ID. So for check-in, you need the location name. Location, I call it location. You can fetch the value, right? With zip code or something like that, city and something like that. But if you don't want it, just leave it as a string. For me, I leave it as a string. And then date. Of course, you want date, you want time also can, right? Your login time. So you want to fetch it the date and time, you can use date format. Time, for example. Date. But let's say you want to simplify it. So the date you manage it in your code, right? So when you store it into this remote so-called the API, right? You store it as a string is fine. Now the format you manage it in your code, right? So it's up to you. So if you want to make it date, you have to follow the date format here. So you can fetch it also, right? So let's just put it as string. If you want to fetch it, you can fetch it using whatever string, whatever name and so on for your location. You can fetch it. For example, I want to fetch it. My location, the check-in location, maybe company name. So the API will actually do it for you, right? So let's see what happens. Once you have defined the schema for your history resource, the table, you can create it, right? You generate the JSON, right? So you can still edit, right? You can still edit as you want, right? You can still edit later. So you can see the data you can fetch. You can drag fetch 7. Also 7 record. So you can see you fetch for you the location with some string. But this because you put string, so the fact value will be date 1, date 2, right? So if you want to update Okay, sorry. Edit. Right, you can edit it to date. Right, if you make it date, so you actually fetch it with the date format, but this is timestamp format. Huh? So up to you how you want to process in your code. But for this one, you can also, right? You can also, okay, wait. I make it into string and then I'll enter it myself in the program, in the code later. So you can fetch a few so that when you run later, you read it from this API, your app will be populated with the value, right? Your app will be populated with the value. No, you can edit. Actually, how come you cannot update already? Okay, let's look at the endpoint. So once you have already created, right? Actually down there, so this is the format, right, of your endpoint. This one, not this one. This is sample, sample. You see the get, right? Get, right? So all these on are the endpoint that you are allowed to access. For example, if you put the endpoint, this one, right, and then slash history, history is here, slash history, right? Then you should be able to get the sample what is that, JSON, right, to get the list. So you can test all this using Postman, right? If you want to get a specific record, right, because you have ID in each of your ID in each of your so-called item, your object, then you can access also one of the object using the ID if you know the ID. But when you do listing, you do Recyclerview, normally you don't need this. You just need this. Unless you want to edit, right? You pass you the ID. There's an ID attached to each record, each item. And then pause. If you are doing a HTTP pause instead of get, right? And then you still passing the URL with the slash history, right? You actually insert a new record following this format. The ID, location, date, time into the server. The server actually receive it. You can do a pause. You can also do a put. Put, normally HTTP put is for update, right? Update. So you can also put the URL slash history slash the ID. When there is a colon here, doesn't mean you must put colon. You just put the value of the ID, 1, 2, 3, for example. Then you can update the specific record. You can update. And then finally, delete also similar. Delete and update quite similar, just that the protocol is to remove the ID, remove the specific item from the record. Right? We can test this one. So once you have created this schema and also the IDs, the so-called the resource is done, we can use Postman to test. Right? I use Postman to test. Right? I show you the Postman. Okay, test first. Just last week we did this, right? Remember last week, if you watch back the video. But this endpoint is from some third-party website. So you can find some third-party statistics, or you can also mock, right? You can mock this yourself using mock API. So like this one, you can mock your own statistics actually. All right, so it's okay. It's allowed for this assignment. Just make it realistic, not to be too unrealistic. Make it realistic, the figure and so on. You can structure your own endpoint. Okay, so this is the endpoint. Right, just now I said I fetch 4 data, right? You can see the 4 data. In order for me to receive this on the client side, I want to receive this JSON, right? On the client side, I have to do the get.
So we can't see the screen right now.
Oh, you can't see? Okay. How come I'm sharing the entire window? Can you see? The entire window. Do you see my window? Can, right?
Yep, now it's okay.
Can already, Okay, I'm going to test this one, get. To get. So the endpoint is this one, right? Okay. The base URL. So I go to the Postman, I test it now, get, and then history. The endpoint, this one. Of course, if you use your account, you have a separate different key, right? This is my key, and then the format is history I get, right? So I send, right? So you see, this one I can get it. If you can get it here, means the rest is just about coding, coding. So you can actually change this one, the value and so on in your server side. You can track it, right? So this is the one as you see just now here. This one actually is this one. Just follow the API format. You'll be able to know how to get, how to delete, how to update, right? API format to get, right? By slash history, you can get. If by one of the record, right? Let's say I know the ID, Here, I got the 4 data, right? ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if I want to get one of them, /1. This is a very common format for API, right? Normally, if you want to get one of the ID, send, right? 1. If you want to get number 2, right? If you want to put, right, you have to provide the parameter, because you want to send in your current value. If you want to pause also, right? You have to, right? You just put like that, pause, and then you have to put in. How come okay, here there are a few ways. One way is you can pause using here, right? You can use this as www form URL encoded way, right? So you can pause. Later we can demo in the code. So you can put the so-called the key. The key is your when you want to pause the value, right? The pause like location, date, time, right? You can add it with the fact value, whatever value you want to submit. This one later you simulate it using your code, but here is using Postman. You can test, right? You can submit your value to the server side. Okay, let's say I try now. Location, and then date. Today is what? 20th of June, right? And then time 4 o'clock. So let me maybe I use international the time, this international time. Okay, let's say this is my data. I pause. I can try. I can try this pause to this, right? So you generate a new record in the server side. Okay, done. Right, done. Number 5. Number 5. So it's a new record. New record. Okay, let us verify it from the server side. Get everything. Okay, done. Number 5 is added. Is that right? Yeah. Right, so it's quite easy to do using more API. If you are not going to use other option like Firebase for CRUD function, or you don't have your server side implemented, you can use more API actually. Right, you see data is added. So if you verify from the server side, there are 5. Now refresh. There are 5 record now. Added already posted. Data here. Yeah. Added. Okay, so the rest is on the code side, coding. So the functional wise, this is working very well. And the API is very clean, right? API is quite clean, very standard API. You just follow this format. ID is the value of the ID 1, 2, 3, and so on. Get, delete. You can do all the CRUD using this. The 5 common API to get, to pause, to put, and also to delete. Okay, let's do it on the code. On the code. So I'll just, because this sample code is already on Moodle, I've already put up there some weeks ago. You can refer. If you want to do together, it's fine. Even better, right? It's on Moodle. Yeah. Okay. See here already. I also got the API with repository, API without repository. This is a bit easier without the layer. This one with the layer, but it's the same, actually same. And then the other one is with volley. This one, not this one. Okay. For volley, I didn't put it here. So volley, I'll give you later. I also have the sample to do the same using volley. But for this afternoon, I'm going to use retrofit. Retrofit. Okay. So first of all, the layout. layout file. Layout file. Okay, I have the layout done already. Just follow that. We don't want to throw and so on. So let's do a quick one. Okay, where is it? Okay. Oh, this one. Yeah. Okay, the layout. I'll just use this layout. Same layout. So maybe I give you these two file. How? Okay, never mind. Or why not I create a starter code? Starter code with all the things in, except maybe the history API, all this code. So I give you a starter code. You give me 5 minutes. Let's have a short break, 5 minutes. I give you a starter code, then you follow from there, easier. 5 minutes break. Right, so I am supposed to give you a break. So I'll give you 5 minutes break. After 5 minutes break, I'll give you a starter code. Thank you. right, students? Let's continue. Okay, I don't want to hold you beyond 6 later. You check the site, right? Please create this first. On your part. If you want to test, you want to work together with me. You can also use mine, but I want you to practice on your own. If you can access, I don't know about Google. This is not Google, but this is you can sign in using Google or GitHub. Don't know about China site whether this is blocked or not. Whether you need to it's behind firewall or not for this site. You can try. You can try. If you want to do it practically together, it's better that you create your own API. You can create your own resource. You can create multiple resources under one project, 4. So up to 4. For me, I create 1 for this afternoon demo history. So for other purpose, like you can create your own user resource for, let's say, login, logout. Right? You can create your own login, logout. Right? You can use this for login, logout. Password, for example. Password. You can fake it, like you can generate some randomly generated password. I see whether got or not. Username, you can fake it. Yeah, some randomly generated username as a data. They can do it for you. Let me see, password. Password. There is no password here. Oh, you got password. You can fake it. We can try avatar. You want to create avatar for the user. So it depends on your data schema for user. Let's say your user is only ID, username, password, right? Many of you have phone number, right? Phone number, you can fake the value for phone number. Phone. Phone number. Okay, let me see. Phone. Email, you can fake. Okay, let's not to waste time on that. Okay, let me show you. You can generate your user data also, some fake user data. Then you have username, right? 1, 2, 3, password. Fake password. But this is good enough for you to do the testing. Or you can key in yourself using POS, HTTP POS later. So right, you can try this to fake it, right? And then you test it on your front end. Okay, now I have this history. Later I can give you this endpoint. You can test using my endpoint. Actually, doesn't matter. Just don't bring down my server. Don't bring it down. Don't crash it. Right, this is my endpoint. But don't use my endpoint as the assignment. Don't use it for your assignment. You create your own endpoint. Okay, so now. Okay, so I have given you the starter code. Let me show the screen. This is the starter code. Right, starter code. Just now I attached to the chat. Right, starter code. The activity is clean. Only the layout is given. Right, I use this sort of like simple layout with a progress bar, progress icon. So you can show the progress icon before the data is loaded, and then history item layout. So a sample only with the date and time, right? You can see. And the icon to represent it. So this is just a static icon marker, static marker. So it's up to your design for your own assignment. For now, I just use this format. Right, so there are 3, 1, 2, 3. Location, date and time are the dynamic data that I'm going to enter into the database, right? And I'm going to read from database and display here. So the item, activity man, right? Inside the activity man, there's a button for us to capture the camera. When we click, then we'll bring out the QR code scan. This one we have already done last week. Not last week, the week before, right? Using so-called the Zing, Z-Sync, a zebra crossing library. I'm going to use that again. When we click the button, we scan. And then after scanning, we are going to capture the location name and then show the progress bar. And after that, populate the recycler view. Populate the recycler view with the check-in history one by one. So the mechanism is quite straightforward, quite easy. Okay, so first of all, let's go to the code here, right? Create a new class, Java class, right? We call it history. History. For retrofit, you need to have an entity. This is the entity for data model, right? So this is to mirror the entity, that resource that we create in the server side. If your server side has a history resource, the table like more API, then here you should have a corresponding class, right? That is going to be mapped to the resource. So history. Right, okay, right? This is not difficult. Okay, so we are going to follow the format that we did just now. Let me show you on the server side. On the server side just now, right, we have this history, right? Just look at the format again. ID, location, date, time. These four. ID, location, date, time. So on the client side, the mobile, we follow that format. Right, ID, just make it private, right? Integer ID. This is a primary key. Then we create the property, the property for the location, date. Right, I'm going to use string to display, because we just need to display. We are not going to do anything, just display. Just can be a string, the date, the time. Right, the so-called the constructor. Let's do the constructor. Right, so we're passing the value for the string, location, date, time for constructing the object. Right, so here this dot location equals to this location, value of this location. This dot date equals to date. This dot time equals to time. Okay, then we create the setter and getter function. In Java, this is a Java object, right? Java object, right? In order for us to manipulate, these are all private. So to apply good information hiding principle, we make public function to manipulate the value, to get the value. So public void, right? If you want to set location, right? The ID you can also do for this, but I think for our case, the ID will be auto-generated on the server side. So we are not going to get the ID, set the ID. We just leave it. We are going to do this, this tree. So set location, passing the string of the location, and then we set the value. It's just a repeat. So here we can do a public return, get location, return the value. Or getter and setter. So just do it for each of the property. So each of the property, this one change it to set date. So this. Understand? So I because it's repetition, so I'll do a bit fast. Get date, return the date. Set time. Right, return the time. Right, and the date. Date, time. So this one is get time. I hope you have no issue on that, huh? It's just a class that we have to create for our object, huh? For our history object later. All right, I wait for you for a while. Huh? Just check. Huh? You just do it. Huh? You can do it on your own. Huh? This one is quite straightforward. Yeah, I give you the code. Yes. All right. So now, for retrofit, you know that we have to create an API for retrofit. So let's create the retrofit API. It's a class, but it's an interface. Interface. So we call it retrofit API, or you can call it history API, or whatever name you think is appropriate. So why not we just call it retrofit API? Retrofit API interface. So create a retrofit API. Right? Can retrofit API. Okay, then we continue. Right, so that API we need to is an interface. So we are going to have, for this case, we are going to scan. So we need to insert, and then we need to also retrieve, right, a list, the full list of the history. So what are the two API that is relevant? Okay, let's have a check. So we need to mirror the server side, so server side history. Right, so what are the two? Actually, this is relevant, right? We want to get all the data, get all the data. So it should actually list out all the data for us, list out, this one. So we also want to want to pause, because we want to QR code scan. Want to scan and want to insert one record, new record into the server side. So they are pause, right? So either we will just do these two, so that is relevant. If you want to implement the rest, also can update, delete, but we don't need it for QR code scan, only the pause a new record, and also get full record, full list, right? These two. So on the app, we are going to do these two interface function, right? Interface function. These two, pause and also the get. So we are going to do it on our app. Right, so here, first thing, right, insert new history. So we are going to do the interface only. There is no body for that function. So alias pause, pause, then history. So this will follow the format of the API later. So import this pause history. And then we need to define the function, right, for this interface. for this query, so-called the POS, retrofit POS. Right, so we can name it create history or insert history, insert history. Right, and then we are going to pass in the body, right? Like just now in the postman, we have to pass in the so-called the body of the history object. Right, import this class. So we are going to pass a history object to be inserted into the database. Right, the history object will contain actually. The history object will contain this string. We are not going to pass the ID, but it will be generated by the server side. So we are going to insert this string location date time. As this location date time is represented in our data model as history. Right, so for retrofit we need this keyword call. So it's going to involve this history object. So we have to put call retrofit to class. Right, call. Oh, sorry, this one I think wrong. This one I have to put like that. History. This is the API using string. This one we follow the format for the API documentation. Right, so if you use different more API format, you have to follow that. Just now. Right here. Here. Right, history. Capital letter H. So this is going to be our later the query slash. This one we need to put in history to get history. So what happens is in your code, this one must follow that capital letter H, string history. So this POS, if someone use the URL slash history capital letter H, then this function will be called. You call this function that involves a history object. Insert. All right. Second one is get. We want to get, and then we pass in the history string again on a slash URL. The endpoint. This is the endpoint. Endpoint to add. New history. Here, endpoint to get all histories. Plural. Right? The endpoint is slash history with get. So we can call it get histories. Function is up to you. You define your own function name. Right? So for get, right, you are not going to pass in any parameter, right? Get, but you return, right? You return what? You return a list. You return a list of all the history. Right? List. Right? A list, or a array list also can. If you want to use array list also can. So let's just make it simple. Use list. Because it's just a list that we read. So list, we are not going to manipulate the list. Just read. We are not going to remove any member or and so on, right? So we are going to get it as a list. And then we have to add in this call as a container, the folder. We need everything, the data that is going to be involved with the retrofit API needs to have a call. So this one, call. Get. So that this list is going to be the data that is going to be exchanged, right, between the app and the server side in JSON, right? So this is the JSON value, JSON file, right? That is in this format. List is a list. So use this call keyword as a holder of this data, like just now, call history. code list history. The retrofit API done. Huh? Can student. I think not that difficult. I understand the concept. Okay, so this is the steps normally we do for retrofit. If you want to use retrofit. It's very popular, retrofit too. So for networking, for client server in Android. You can use other API also can, library also can. This is one of the popular one, retrofit. So let me give you this part. Okay, next. Right, if you want to structure your code, but we have only a few files, but let's say you want to make your code more tidy, right? You can add a package, let's say database, right? So these two are actually backend code. You can move them to the database. Refactor your code, create a folder for them. Up to you, this is not compulsory, but you can do it actually. Right? You can do it. So you can add in a folder, DB, let's say in your package for these two. Okay, now. Okay, already can understand. Okay, I forgot to tell you, for the project, this project, because we are using the library for ZSync, using the library for Retrofit 2, in the starter code, right, the dependency are already added. If you check the dependency for the app, module, app module, dependency for ZSync. I'm going to use ZSync. You can use other library also for scanning, and then Retrofit 2. These are the library for Retrofit 2. If you want to process JSON file, JSON, JSON, so you can use this. These are included in the dependency just now, in the project. Okay, now we want to do something on the UI, but before we do on the UI, let's look at this, the layout. Behind this layout, the progress bar, there is a Recyclerview. Right? Currently, you don't see it. Why? Don't see the Recyclerview here because on the starter code, I make it gone. So in the beginning, the progress bar is visible. Later in the code, we'll actually make the progress bar invisible. When the progress bar is visible, means the Recyclerview is not loaded yet. Because this involves server side, so there will be asynchronous communication between the client and the server. So it'll take a while. Actually, there will be some latency. If you want to make the user experience better, then while the user is waiting for because this server is not fast, mind you, this is free. So there is some performance bottleneck for the mock, right? So in order for your system data to read from server side, especially if you have many, this data JSON, to retrieve it, right? You take some time. So we'll actually put in some progress bar while the mock is not responsive yet, right? So it's still retrieving. So we put in a progress bar. So and then it is visible by default, and after the Recyclerview is loaded, right? Then Recyclerview will be set to be visible, and this will be set to be invisible. Right? So that is the logic. So now in order to load a Recyclerview, we need to have, for Recyclerview, you remember that we have to do a adapter, right? Adapter for the Recyclerview and also the view holder. I'm not going to go into detail. So basically, we can create that quickly. I have the code. I think we just do it quickly. We can call it history list adapter. Right, history list adapter. So right click on the package, create a new Java class. We call it history list adapter. History list adapter. Right, then it will actually extends from a list adapter class, and then by feeding in the data type, the history and also the history view holder, we are going to create view holder. So this history list adapter is going to extends. Okay, let me write on the same line, extends, right, a list adapter class, and then with the history as the type and also history list adapter. Okay, we are going to make the view holder to be part of the class, internal class, right? Internal class, so that only we can write all in one file. So dot history view holder. I'm going to define this one later. So this one you can import, import it. So the history list adapter extends the list adapter, right? And then the data, the module that we're going to pass into this, going to bind it to this, is history. So we need to pass the history object to this, right? History. And then history list adapter, inside there, we're going to create this class. Create the class. Create the class, right? We call it history view holder. So create the class within the history list adapter. We have another class, internal class history view holder. So this one list adapter we import, right, from Android X. This list adapter for Recyclerview Android X. Right. So every time you see this error, it will actually help you. The tool nowadays, Android Studio is very intelligent, right? So if you see this, you let it helps you to guide you with what you are supposed to do. So you actually tell you need to implement a few methods, right? If you are working with a history view holder, a view holder class, you need to implement two function, callback function, on create view holder and also on bind view holder. So let the two help us, right? On create view holder, on bind view holder, right? And this is the constructor, the constructor, not the constructor, sorry, the history class, view holder class. Okay, let me give you this template. So I'm also not, I can't remember, so I just use the tool to help me to guide me. So let me see anything I miss. Right, you also need to create a constructor for this. So let the tool help us. Right, we also need to create this div util. This is to check the Recyclerview content so that we can update the Recyclerview. This callback object, div util item callback. Later we'll call it. And this one. All right, so all this, let us, right, extends view holder. So this one, this class, right, view holder have to extend the Recyclerview dot view holder class. Right, all these are code that we have done before for Recyclerview. Please revise it. If you forget already, you go back to the topic of Recyclerview earlier that we have done this. Put the content of the classes, content of the function one by one. So for now, I give you the template. So all are generated by the tool, right? So that you won't make mistake. It'll tell you need to have implementation for this function, this function, this function, this function, and finally this class that inherit from this. Right, remember just now, we are all our list, the list that we are going to retrieve from the server side to populate our Recyclerview. right? So if you look at the API just now, Retrofit API, it's called list history. It's a type of list, and each of the member is a history object. So in our code now, we want to create a local version value of this history list. So we are going to do it inside here, right? The history adapter, right? Let's declare a global value, like variable, right? History list, right? We call it history list variable of this type list, right? Of the type, the member is of type history. Understand? Can right? These are just coding, basically, nothing very much. It's just technical, You just need to know, because you need to populate your Recyclerview, Recyclerview, which is on the layout here. So we need to have that, the adapter done, so that you can adapt to the list. Okay, the constructor for the history list adapter, right? The constructor, nothing much we need to do for this. So basically just to call the superclass, right? Superclass is actually this list view, list adapter. Just call the superclass, right? Pass the div callback to it. We don't, unless you want to initialize certain thing, but for now we don't do anything here. Okay, now we want to do the history list adapter, history view holder. Sorry, history view holder. This one. Okay, let's move this out. History view holder here. Right, let us make it a static class. Static class meaning is when you want to create this, you follow the class history list adapter together like this. So I'll make it a static class history view holder. Okay, the history view holder, the most important thing is we want to bind the layout, bind the layout of the history item, right? These three here. The location text view, right? Location text view, the date text view, and also the time text view. We want to bind the location text view, the date text view, and the time text view to our data. To our data. The data is history. So this class is going to do that. So we need a constructor. We need a constructor for the history view holder. It's a class. It's a class. It's an internal class. A class within another class. That's why when you want to access it statically, without creating the object of the history view holder, we can call it with a static call. Class name history list adapter dot history view holder. So that's why it's static. It's a static class. So you make it static class within your history list adapter class. So this class extends from Recyclerview dot view holder class. So super class, the library class. And then this is the constructor of it, the constructor. Understand? Can All right. So now we are going to bind. So we have three items, three text view that we are going to bind. We want to bind it to our data, right? So this is the part that we are going to code inside this history list adapter. Right, let us just declare the text view first. The text view. Right, we call it, first one is location, location text view, or we call it location also can, or just to differentiate between the data, we call it text view location, right? Another one, text view TV date, text view TV time. Right, so import. Okay, don't have to make it private now, just declare that. Okay. Sorry, it's not. Let me check. Let me check. Oh, okay, not in the constructor. It should be declared outside, outside. Then we initialize it in the constructor here. TV location equals to find view by ID, right? Find view by ID. So this is the item, right? Item view dot. We pass in the view, right? So item view. This item view, right, will actually bind to this view item history item dot XML, right? This history item dot XML. You bind to this. Item view actually refer to this. It's a reference to this. So item view dot find view by ID, r dot ID dot text view, location text. Similarly for date, also find view by ID, r dot ID dot date text. Okay, right? So for the time view by ID, r dot ID dot time text. All right, okay. This is to bind. So you haven't done the bind. This is only to initialize the view, right? The item text. Okay, so we need to define a bind function. Bind function. Right, so bind function, define it. A bind function that can be called later to bind to bind each of these text view, right, to the value of the history item. So bind, we pass in the value one by one. For example, location, date, time for the function. Right, then this item dot set text is a text view. So we set the value of the text to this value location. Okay, the return type is void. Right, return type void. So bind. So one by one, TV, date, right? So dot set text. Set text, the value is date. TV, time, set text. Okay, understand? Can in the history class, view holder class, we do a function bind. constructor, a class, a complete class should have a property, right? And then a constructor, a few methods relevant to this class. Huh? So it's just a class, but it's done inside another class. That's why. Right. So this is a constructor for this history list adapter. Another function to create this. Because later we have an on create view holder class. So we define a function to create the view holder. This one is to basically to bind it to the view holder. I just directly put it in. All right, we want to inflate the layout, history item layout, this one. So we need another function, create function to just layout, inflate the layout, right? Inflator to inflate the history item layout. Right, so this is, and return the object of the view holder. We inflate it and after that return it with the view. So this is one. So I give you this part of the complete view holder class. This one is nothing new. We have done it before in Recyclerview topic earlier when we do the UI. So it's the same. It's actually more or less the same. The way the thing that we do here, we do it in Java. I can't remember. I think maybe we did it in Kotlin that time. So, but this is in Java. So I give you this. Okay. So once we have the view holder, right, constructed, the object, the class, then we have to define this two function. On create view holder and also on bind view holder. Right, so on create view holder, very simple. We have already written the create function, right? Create function. So what happens is in the on create view holder, we just need to create it and then return the value. So what we do is we use the entire this is a static function, right? Static function. So we can call it by using the class name. Dot create. And then we pass in here, right? The view group. View group is actually basically the history item view. So that view group, the object. So what we do is here, we just passing the parent, passing this parent. That's all. Because we define the create function already. You can also write this full code inside here. Let's say we don't have this function defined. You can also do like that. You can also do like that. And you can also do like that. Right? And then you return view like that. It return this variable. Hey, how come cannot? Okay, let me see. View parent passing history. Oh, sorry, this one. Like that. Okay. History view holder. History view holder. Yeah. Then I think we have to define it this way already. If you want to without this create method for the view holder, yes, we have to put in the view, right? Okay, never mind. So use this one. So we just use the create function and passing the parent. Right, so this will be done here. The logic to do it, to construct, to inflate the view is here. It's inside the create function. All right, done. So on create view holder done. On bind view holder, because it's bind, right? on create view holder, we call the create function, right? On bind view holder, we call the bind function. So we basically call the bind function to do the action, right? To perform the binding. Right, so we are creating the object for the current history object. So whenever you look through the array list, the list of history, so you come to history item one by one. So what happened now is we create that object, current history, and then new history, right? Based on the, okay, we don't create the new, we get the current item. We don't create a new one. We get the item from the current position. Because this callback on bind view holder passing the position. So what happens is we get the item from the current position. This is a built-in function under view holder. Then we bind, right? So we call the bind function. So bind function of passing the value one by one. So this holder, right? Holder variable dot bind. So we bind the value from where? From this history object. History should get location, right? Just now the history object, right? We have the getter function. Getter function for get history, get location. We call this function. Get the function, get the date, get the time. Right? So comma, right? Comma. Now there are three parameters expected. Right? For bind, there are three parameters. Three parameters. So we bind one by one. The second one will be, let's enter into a new line here. Right? Current history dot get date. The second parameter is date. Current history dot get time. Right? Done. Done. Right? Understand? This one is just to bind it. So the value from the object, right? We bind it to the view here, one by one. We pass in the value and then you bind to the TV, the text view. Okay, this is still almost done, actually done. But this one we haven't defined. The div util, right? Item, how to, because Recyclerview, you need to be updated whenever there's a new item added or the item is removed and so on. So the callback will actually check whether there's a difference between now and the later, the state of the Recyclerview or not, there's a change or not. When there's a change, you update. So we need to create a callback method. This one, I think I just directly give it to you. So it's similar to, always you do the same thing for Recyclerview. Always we extend this library and then we have this items the same callback, contains the same callback. So what we do is items the same. We said that the callback will actually check the both, right? The list on the current list and the new list. So we check if there is changes or not, right? You return true or false. And also not just the number of items, but also the content of the item, whether there is an update or not. So this callback contains the same, right? You check for the all list and the new list, the item, right? Item by item, whether the value is the same or not. So what we do is here, because we have three different fields, date, time, and location. So we basically check whether they are the same or not. The value, the string is the same or not. If the string have changed, right, not the same, then you trigger, right? You trigger and return the boolean. So this one basically, okay, let me see. I think that's pretty much done. Pretty much done. Let me check. Sometimes I also forget anything that I miss out. Okay, I think it's there. It's there. Basically done. This one is needed in the UI later activity. On the main activity. So all these are just defined first. We define where we're going to call all these functions from the UI, from the activity, where we use it. So we are going to call from there. So let me give you this full code for the adapter. Right, for the adapter. Right, so I think you are following, right? Okay. So the last mile already. So every time you construct the data model, we construct from the bottom up first. The data model construct first, and then construct for retrofit. You need to construct the API. The API is the query based on the endpoint. Your endpoint interface function for endpoint. You can call it API because it's an endpoint. So you have interface function. These are interface function because there is no body, right? Just a prototype of the function name, right? And the function parameter. And then we define that, and then we do, if you need a Recyclerview, you do this. If you don't have a Recyclerview, actually you don't do this. Then let's move to the UI. UI. So we have a button just now, right? Remember? We do a button. For scanning purpose, this one you can do the button anywhere you want, right? This is just to trigger the QR code scan, which we did before when we do the room database. Remember a few weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, when we do that, we click this. We just need to create a button on click listener, and then we trigger the ZSync library when we do scan. So what happens now is, first of all, remember this one, right? We need to add a manifest. In the starter code, I have already given you with this permission, right? You need retrofit, you need this. This is for retrofit. You want to connect to the API, mock API, you need this internet permission. For the camera, for the scanning, you need this camera permission, QR code scan. So these two you have to add. It's already in the starter code just now, starter code I give you, right? Add in the permission. Okay, now here, let us declare a button. We call it a scan button. Scan. Right, that button is actually this button. This button. It can be just a floating action button or any button that you use in your project. All right, for now I use a simple button. Okay, so this one is called button scan. The ID. Okay, so let us just, I call it button scan easier so that we don't get confused. So button scan goes to find view by ID. r.id.button scan. Right, we find the view by ID first. Okay, so do a on click listener, right? On click listener for the button. So this one, quite standard code, right? On click listener. So we just do a etn scan dot set on click listener. Right? Then create a new view dot on click listener object. Listener. Right? And then put in the curly bracket, and here you put a semicolon. So here, import the view. Right, this is a structure of on-click listener. So inside the on-click listener, we are going to define override the on-click function. Every button has an on-click function. Either you define the on-click right directly inside the layout. You can do here button, the on-click here. Or you can do an on-click here. You can do an on-click here. Or in this case, we are doing it in the code. Do an on-click listener in the code. So we need to define the on-click function. So you see the red line, right? There is some error, not error line, it's not complete. So we let the tool help us. Okay, sorry, what is that? Okay, never mind. I write the function directly. Right, override. Need to define a function. I think I mix up something. Bracket. This one is bracket. Oh, here, I think here is like that. All right, it need a bracket here. I miss it. Okay, the constructor. Then we let it implement the method. On click function. So this bracket, just now I forget. I miss out the bracket. Curly the bracket. And then with that bracket, and then we add in override the on click function. Right, on click. Okay, this on click function is basically the same thing that we did 2 weeks ago. Right, I'm going to use ZSync. So I'm not going to explain again. So this ZSync library, I use the ZSync. Use intent integrator. So this ZSync will you scan using create an intent of camera intent, scan and then come back. So later we need to define the on activity result function. Callback on activity result callback to receive the result of the scan, and then we insert it into the API, insert into the database. Insert into the database. So we define it now. Okay, so this one basically, okay, let me give you this. So this is done already earlier. We just follow the same tutorial that we did earlier. There is to scan, to call this class intent integrator to scan. Integrator. Right, correspondingly, because we have this click listener, right, and then we call this intent integrator, right? It's an intent. So after scan, you need a callback to receive what we scan. Basically, if you scan a QR code, you receive a string. All right, we receive a string, So basically, let us just create that callback method inside the class, inside the same class, the callback method. Right, so that callback method is the same as the intent, the callback for the intent, which is on activity result. On activity result. It's like if you call an intent, you want to receive the result from the intent. You also need to have this callback. Right, add the super code for the on activity result, passing the same parameter. So there are request code, result code, data. Data is the one that we are concerned about. Right. This is done earlier in the other, but here I'm showing you how to insert it into a more API, the one that we do using Retrofit. Right, after scan, this is written. The result will be written here. Okay, let us declare the variables first. We haven't declared. I think one off. So we need to use, refer to a few variables. Okay, let me declare as a global variable here. Okay, first of all, when we scan, right, there will be a string return. So we declare a variable called response string that will receive that string. So this string will receive the location. So we can create a QR code. That QR code will represent the location of a place. So we call this response string from your server, from the QR code scan, right? Response string. And then we need a recycler object to refer to the recycler view. Later, we are going to use this. And then we also need to instantiate the history list adapter. So later we need to call this history list adapter. So in the main activity, we declare the variable to refer to that history list adapter. We can call it history adapter, history list adapter, to be more informative. Easier for us to refer to it, small letter H. And then we need a local list, right, to keep our array, the array list. So we can instantiate as an array list so that we can grow it, we can remove element, we can string it, we can remove it, we can grow it, we can string it. So array list is suitable for that case, right? So list is the super class, the parent class. Array list is a subclass of list. So you can have array list, or you can use also linked list if you want. Or you can use linked list also if you want. You work more or less the same. For example, so but let's use array list, array list. And then progress bar, as I told you just now, right? We want to bind to the progress bar. Yeah. We want to make it visible, invisible. So we need to also refer to it, progress bar with this ID, right? Progress bar. Understand? All these variable, declare it first as a global variable. Later on, we are going to manipulate it, manipulate them. Okay, so on activity result, right? On activity result, we are going to receive the result from the so-called the integrator, intent integrator. So just like what we did 2 weeks ago, using room. That time we scan using room and then we receive the result. Here in this project, we are going to scan again, similar, right? Similar. So we receive the intent result object, right? From intent integrator. This intent integrator, the scan action is here. In your click, you trigger that intent to scan and come back, right? Scanning QR code. You can make this to be just QR code. QR code. Just scan QR code. Just recognize QR code, not other code. And then here, intent integrator, we pass the result. The result by using the request code, result code, and data. This one, the system will manage it. You don't have to worry. Right? Result. Right? So we check the result whether it's null or not, because sometimes people scan and then don't receive anything from the QR code, right? So if result not equals to null, right? Unless it is not equals to null, then only we process. Else we must send actually put a notification message, right? If result not equals to null, right? Only we process, right? If it is null, then what happens? Then we basically just okay, let me see. Okay, so the logic I think is like something like this. If result not equals to null, we check the content. We check the content. We check the content. Result dot response. Sorry. Get content. Sorry, this is the function for this camera intent result. Get response. Let me check. Why is it not working? Get content. Sorry, not get response. Get contents. Right. The function is get content. Sorry. Not equals to null. Else, yeah. Else, right? So else if the content is null, content is null, what do? We just print a message using toss. A toss saying that scan is cancelled. No content, meaning the user didn't scan, then come back. It returned from the callback. It returned from the scan camera, return from the camera, go back from the camera. So nothing is scanned, right? There is no content. So do a toss. Do a toss. Else, right? This is the important part. Else, if result is not null and the content is not null, then what happened? Right, we are supposed to capture the scan result, right? Scan result. So first of all, the scan result is going to contain location text, the text representing the location name, right? The date and time, actually we can get it from the computer, the font, right? So we are not going to embed the date and time in the scan, in the QR code. QR code only contain the location. The date and time, we use the current time of the, either if your app is running with a server side, you can get the server side, you can write a function to retrieve the date and time from the server, or you can get date and time locally in the phone. The phone has a date and time. So what happens is we declare a variable string location. So we basically get it from the result. Right? Get it from the result. The result is actually the text, QR code deciphered, meaning decoded text, which is the location, in other words. And then the time, the date, right? We get it from the current system date and current system time. In this case, I'm using the Java time, Java time. So I'm going to use this Java time utility function. You can use any utility function to get the date, right? And then to get the time. Local time. But you want to use the server time also can, So let me just, this function may need to have some, to put this, requires a but it's okay. I think it works, it works. You can use any utility function, to get the time and to get the date. Okay, now we need to define a function to call the retrofit. Right? Retrofit function to insert. This function. Insert. Right? Because we receive it from the QR code scan. So now we want to insert into database. Into the API, into insert history. So let us just call it pause history function. But this function is not defined yet, right? We have to define it somewhere. This function is going to receive 3 parameters. We pass in the location, the date, and the time to the pause history function. You just get it, understand first, so it's a bit hard to. I explain to you now, you understand. Later you look at the recording and the code, you should understand what I'm doing. So this function, we don't write everything here, so it's just define another function so that we can group that code, retrofit code, in one function. So we pass all these variable to the value to the pause history function. We define that function now. Right? Define the function somewhere. Pause history function. Pause history function. Okay, this part is the one that we are going to do some so-called what is that? The retrofit. Retrofit. So let's define a base URL. Base URL. Okay, base URL will be the one that we can copy from the server side, from our API. Right, API, this one. With the slash, remember, because our so-called the endpoint, we don't have the slash. Just now we defined the API, we didn't put the slash there, right? So your base should have a slash. right? So your base URL, you include it in your base URL. Copy this. Copy this one. Right, so we put it here. Right, just like what we did with Retrofit last week. Retrofit, we did already to retrieve data, right? This is to pause, so that one is to retrieve. So what we do, we want to execute this so-called execute this query, what we call call, execute retrofit call to the server side. So first of all, we must build the retrofit. So first of all is retrofit. We build it first. Create a variable to build it. Sorry, to create new retrofit builder, and then we have to chain it. Right, chain it to here, right on the new line. Right, set the base URL. Right, base URL. This one. So pass in this variable. Right, the base URL. And base URL, we pass in the variable base URL. And then we add the converter factory. Right, add converter factory. This converter factory is JSON. We want to use JSON to, how to say, to pass your JSON. The server side will pass the JSON file. So we want to use JSON library to pass, right, the JSON file. So basically we can use this, add converter factory. Right, so that converter factory is a JSON converter factory. So we create the JSON converter factory. Dot create. Use the built-in create function to create it. And finally, we build. So we pass in the URL here. We pass in the converter factory. Set the converter factory for this retrofit, and we build. Build the retrofit object. Right, sorry, this one a bit long, the code, so I'll give you later. So this part basically is the code when we receive the scan. Right, we want to insert the data, the history data into the database. So we write a function to do that. This function is using retrofit to do it. So it's here. How we define it here. In a while, I give you. Okay, retrofit. Okay, now we want to call the API. Retrofit API here. This one. Retrofit API. So now at this place, retrofit API, we call it retrofit API. Use the same name as the class. The interface actually is an interface. Interface class, retrofit API. Okay, now we want to create that class. So we use the create, the callback, the create function. API dot create. Okay, sorry. Retrofit API. Not retrofit API, sorry. Retrofit this one. Use this one, the builder, the one that we built. Create the retrofit dot create. Right, then we pass in the class. Right, retrofit API dot class. One is actually this one, the retrofit class, the API class. Right, retrofit dot create retrofit API class. All right, so just now here we pass in location, date, time. So we create a history object here. Whatever you create a history object with the values we get from the scan. Get from the scan. we construct it with the value of that location, date, time. Okay. Let me see. Oh, we have to put in, this is, let me see, anything wrong with this. Location, date, time. It's not public in history, How come? Let me check. Oh, okay. This one must make it public. Sorry, the constructor must be public, I forgot. Right, otherwise it cannot access this constructor. We are calling this constructor now. Construct history, location, date, time. So I'm calling that constructor. So I have to make it public, right? So I construct with the value here. Right, so now I'm calling which function? We are calling this function, right? Insert history. So the next thing is to call that function insert history, right? Insert history. Passing the insert history will expect to receive a history object. Insert history object. Passing. All right, so but this function we need to call it through the API. Retrofit API, this one. So right, so retrofit API, we construct it already. So retrofit API dot insert history. Insert history. This insert history is this interface function. Interface function. All right, we need to return the insert history will return a call variable because we are going to do it in a callback. In case you want to receive a response from the server side after you insert, even though insert is paused, but the server will still return some response, right? HTTP pause. So what we do is based on that function, we expect a return of this call to the history object. So here, right, or a call, right, or variable of this type, history object. So now we want to enqueue. This one is standard function in using retrofit. Right, once you do a few times, you get familiar. Right, so we need to define a callback. Define a callback. So new, right, callback history. Just follow it. They will create for you. Right, we need to define the on response and on failure callback method. So on response, actually we don't have to do anything, also can, because this is insert, right? You are inserting data. Inserting. But if you want to show a message to the user, successful or something like that, right? Data is already inserted or something like that, then you have to override this method. And on failure, if it is not successful, then you want to override that, right? You can do just a toss. For me, to make it easier now, let's say failure, I just send a toss, right? Just create a toss message, right? The response string, right? So the response string just now, right? I define the response string on the code here. Hey, sorry. Here. Just now, right? Response string. To receive the message from the server side, response string. So what I do now is, let's say there's a failure. You throw a error. So I just get the message. T.get message. So T.get message, I just print this message into the toss, and the user will be informed of it. Similarly, if it is successful, right? If it is successful also, same thing. The response string, you can actually create your own response string. Example. You can create your own response string based on the value returned. response from the using the body, because the return will be in the body, not like that the previous one we do. The response will contain the body, right? HTTP pause, and then you receive a body of the response. That body you can extract the code using the built-in function response dot code, right? And then you can also get from this body, the body part, right? This is the code, and then this is in the header, and the body part of the response message, right? You can get the specific value, right, of your history item, the item that you have just inserted, right? Inserted into the MPI. You just basically just retrieve it again. Then you want to bring it to the toss. Or basically you can bring it to the toss. Just bring it to the toss, right? For the success. What are the value that is already posted? For example, for you to check, you can also do a log to check yourself. Or you don't want the user to see the response, you don't have to do this. This is toss. Just do a toss to inform the user on response. All right, this is done successful for the posting, post history. Okay, let me give you this part. All right, this is the post history. Sorry, I have to go a bit fast. But it's almost 6 already. A long way how to do this. Right, frankly speaking. Okay, just to talk about it also quite important. Okay, you have the sample later to verify how to do it. So I'm just explaining now, post history. So once you post the value to the history to the server side, here, for example, this is not done yet. So this part is the callback for the on activity result after scanning, right? After scanning, right? So let me give you this. Okay, so after posting, right, it's not enough to just post, right? You need to update the UI, right? Let the user know Recyclerview is already updated, right? So we need to do something on the Recyclerview. So this part will be, right, we want to update the Recyclerview. So I think I'll do a bit quick lah. So, okay, we create an object of the history class. So using the current location, date, and time. Location, date, time, history object. Local history object. So we want to update this to the history list, right? The history list. So this is the history list, right? Just now, the local version of the history list. So this history list, first of all, we want to capture the size of it, right? The size of it. We assign it to an integer. Integer, we want to receive that size. Right. So now we want to, why we want to know the size? Okay, because later we want to update, notify the, just now, right, in the code difference here. This one. We want to notify so that the Recyclerview will know the difference, and then you update. So what happens is here, right? We first of all history list dot add, add the current value of the history, the recent one, the one that is being scanned, right? And then we haven't initialized the Recyclerview. So in the onCreate method, right? onCreate method, actually we have to set up the Recyclerview first. I think I'll just do it one off. You can check the code later. This code I'll give it to you. So here, because Recyclerview is not initiated, so in the code here, right, in the onCreate method, right, we have to initialize the Recyclerview as well. So find the view by ID. Recyclerview is actually here. This one, Recyclerview. So you want to initialize the Recyclerview. And then we create the adapter, right? That because Recyclerview, every time you want to adapt, you have to, in the onCreate method, this one, this adapter class is this one. History list adapter, right? The adapter class, we create an adapter and then we construct it. Construct a history list adapter and pass in the, right, a class history diff, a static class history diff, which is this, which is this one, not static class. Passing into the constructor, and then we construct that history list adapter. And then the Recyclerview adapter, right? This one, let me see, adapter, set adapter, right? Set adapter. We set it to this, right? We set the adapter to that history list adapter. And finally, we have to set the layout. We have to tell the adapter, the Recyclerview, set it to be linear. It's a list. So we do a linear layout. Use linear layout manager. This one I think we did before. So all of these are standard. So once we have this Recyclerview done, right? Set up. So inside the code, wherever you want to update the Recyclerview, you can do it here. So now is the place. This is the place that you want to reset. You want to update the Recyclerview. Update the Recyclerview. All right, so we get the adapter. Okay, these are the functions that will help you to actually update it. Right. So get the adapter that is already set up just now. Notify item inserted. We always insert the item at the first position. So on top, we insert at the first. So Recyclerview get adapter notify dataset change. Right? Or you want to say at the size here. This one. You say at the back. You just pass this. Right? The last item. You can say using history list size. You can put it at the last also can. Or you put it at the top. Right? And then you want to scroll. Let's say you want to scroll to that position. Right? You can scroll to that position. Use the smooth scroll to the position. Let's say this is 0. You scroll to the top, to the first one. Let's say this is the size, meaning the last. Now you scroll to the last. So let's say I put 0 lah. And this is to update the Recyclerview when you have inserted, you scan, and then you insert a new record into your Recyclerview, right? This is also inserted into the API, the backend API. Right? So, okay, there is one more to do. Okay, when the app is first loaded, right? First loaded, you also want to actually load, right? Load the Recyclerview with the initial Recyclerview, right? So without the check-in, without the new check-in, right? So you want to list. So these two can be done in a separate screen, actually. I do it on one screen, but you can do it on a separate screen. The check-in is on another screen, another activity, another fragment. And then the loading, you have another check-in history screen or fragment or activity to load, right? So we are going to do the loading by default, the loading. So the loading, just now I've already set up the Recyclerview, right? So we will call a function to do the load. So it is again to call the retrofit function. Use retrofit and call this method. Call this method. Get histories. Just now we use insert history to insert. Now we are going to do the get history. To call the get API history / history, right? To retrieve the value from the database, from the server, right? Get histories. So what happens is here, let us define a function. We call it load histories. Load histories. The function load histories, and we define that function. Load histories. Okay, the process is quite similar to when you do the so-called the. Okay, why not we just name it more clearly lah? Log history from API, from API. So we just call it log histories from API. We call this function to load. So here again, the steps are quite similar. I think I'll just do a quick one. Okay, just now pause, right? So we need to do this. Repeat this one. The base URL, define it. You can write all this in one class, and then you just need to do it one time and reuse it everywhere. But for this case, I just repeat, write the same code again. This one, we make it into here. Okay, sorry, just now here, I think I missed out this one. On activity result, this part, we need to put the super call here. This super call by default to be here. Right, else it wouldn't work. So super on activity result have to be in this one, right? If result not now, we do this. Else we call this. Right? So you need to put the super call inside the else branch. Right? I think I forgot to say that just now. Okay, now the current the get. So I have already done the until that. Okay, so now we want to call the get histories function. Get histories function. Right, load histories from API. We call the function in when the app is loaded. Right, so we call this. So what happens is you have the retrofit class set up already. So what we do now is we call this function. So this is retrofit API. Right, dot get histories. Now we are calling this function get histories. Get histories. Okay, so again we need to enqueue. Just now, remember just now enqueue, call enqueue, right? Yeah, there's a call, right? You return the call, call to this, and then you enqueue, and then you get the response. You do the callback on response. Same thing, same. So for this one, also we do the call.enqueue, and then the rest, similar. So I'll just do it quickly to save time. Okay, basically, it's similar, just that now the response, right, is more important now. Just now is because this is only insert. For the previous case, is only insert. The response is not the one that you basically do anything. You just basically maybe you just bring a toss to user, or don't even do anything. If you don't do anything here, it's actually fine, for the insert, because you just want to make sure the data is inserted. But for reading, right, retrieve, this case, retrieve, right? When it is response, is the part that you want to retrieve the value, right? So the response will actually carry the list. The response is going to be the list of value because you get histories. So what happens is, this is just want to make once you receive the response, you want to make the progress bar. This is progress bar invisible. So make it gone using the view constant gone. Right, just now in the UI, by default is there. Right, by default is there. Right, and the recycler view is gone. by default. So now in the code, we do the reverse. We made the recycler progress bar to be gone and made the recycler view to be visible. Once the data is loaded, only you make it visible. Before it is loaded, you basically are still invisible. Okay, so if the response is successful, what happens is your history list, this one, will be fully loaded with the data response from the body. The body is actually the JSON with the item. Just now we test it using Postman. So that body, you just attach it to the history list. And then this is actually the history list adapter. You update the history list adapter by using the function submit list. Right? Submit the list. Right? Submit this list to the adapter. So your UI, the recycler view will be updated by using this. If it is failure, if it is on failure, then you can do a toss actually. I think I just copy here. Right? Make a text. Response function, the response message, right? We assign the response string with this message. This one remove. Okay, this one is plus. So we just pass a message to this, attach an error message and send it, show it to the user, or you just log it somewhere. Okay. Right, that's done. Pretty much done. Right, the entire app. Okay. Really tiring. I hope you get the concept. Right? It's a bit hard to code line by line with just a few hours. It still depends on how you want to implement. But this sample app, I do it just for the sake of condensing everything in one. So that you get the idea of how to check in, input, and how to retrieve from the API. This one is done totally on the API. On the API, using the API. So maybe because it's already 6 something, okay, let's run, let's test. Let's run one time with this before we conclude the class. We run it. Okay, it's functioning. It's functioning. If you want, okay, I can give you the code. Let me see. I also forget where I write the code already. So this one is. Oh, okay. So I'll rename it and then create okay, let me run first. Let's run first. Right, it'll take a while to compile with so many things. Okay, let me create a mock QR code. And we test it, and then that concludes our class today. Sorry, I overshoot. Sorry today. So give me just 3 more minutes. You can generate a QR code. Let's generate QR code. QR code generator. Okay, we create a QR code ourselves. Right, free text. Let's say location, campus block A. Block A, right? Just call it block A. So this is the QR code. You can test, you can do your own. You want to test. So this QR code I can download. Okay, sorry. How to download? Hey, how come it's like that already? How to download? Let me. Okay, the app is running now. Okay, let you load first. Let me create this QR code first. I want to download it. Okay, PNG. Okay, I call it location. PNG file. Right, so it's on my computer. Right, on my computer. Now let me load it into our virtual scene inside the emulator. Right, so the app is here. Right. Okay, there are a few. How come it crash? Okay, let me check. Oh, I think let's not to worry about this visible, invisible first. So we just test without the. I think I need this one. Right, make it visible. Okay, I think it's okay lah. I'll run the. You can test and run this one, right? Later, or we can do it in the next class, So see whether it works or not now. Right, it should be reading from the server side. From the server side. Right, you'll take a while. How come it's not loading yet? From the server side, just now we have a few dummy data, right? Dummy. I remember we created the dummy data. Right, just now, right here, 5. The five data here. Right, so let us just see whether it can be loaded. How come it's not working? I may need to troubleshoot already. Okay, mind. I think I'll troubleshoot and make this work, and then I'll put it on Moodle later. So actually, there is a sample that is exactly the same as this. That is working. I think we do in a rush. Maybe somewhere I had to check. Anything that I miss out. Right. I think this one doesn't really work properly now. It could be due to the URL. That I have to troubleshoot a bit before I give you the sample. So I think any question for this, right? This is using Retrofit. There is another version using Volley, right? The process is similar, just that the code is different, using Volley. Do you have any question? Sorry about it. Alright, it's really hard to do coding in one afternoon, just a few hours to explain all this. So I'll give you this sample. The sample is actually on Moodle already, Moodle, which is working. Just that you need to go and change the URL. The only thing that you need to change is the URL. Right, the sample code is on Moodle here. This one. You can get it here. Right. For the Volley, I will give you the Volley version also later. I will just upload it later. You can get it from here. Right, a few version. The starter is also here. Right, the working one, but you need to actually change the URL and then you do your mock API. I use mock API, so the URL is based on mock API. So when you want to test the code, you want to use that code and run successfully, you need to create your own mock API endpoint. And then replace this string with your mock API endpoint URL. Right, that is the only place you need to change, and then it should work according to the format. Your API also, you need to format it. You need to create according to the naming that I do, location, date, time, and so on. Then it should work, right? And then you can also modify accordingly for your purpose, right? The flow is the same. Students, any question? Anything you want to ask before we end the session today? I'll update the sample on Moodle later. I'll troubleshoot this one. Yeah. Okay, if you have no question, then I will see you again next Monday, week 14. We have class on week 14. So see you next Monday. Okay, so the recording I'll put online later in a while. Right, thank you.